So, some questions. When you're traveling someplace, there's usually two helpful things to know. One is where you are, and one is where you're going. And it's helpful to have those two pieces of information. So today I want to look at two pieces of information that, because of the cross of Christ, that it's important for us to know if we're going to travel the journey of the Christian life in a way that brings fullness. So the first question is, where's He? Where is Jesus? And the question is answered by an angel that says to the women, He's not here. He's not where you're looking. As a matter of fact, where is it that the angel tells the women to say to the disciples, you're going to see Jesus again where? In Galilee. Which is interesting to me, because you think if something religious and special is supposed to happen, it should happen in Jerusalem, because that's the special religious place. But where are the disciples from? They're from Galilee. So basically, the angel says, do you want to start seeing Jesus again? Go back where you came from. He'll show up to you. He'll visit you. He'll meet you where you're at. And I think sometimes we think we have to go to some special retreat center in some special place and have an encounter with Jesus. But the Christian life isn't so much getting away to find Jesus, but it's having Him meet us where we are, in the midst of our lives. So, an interesting thing, looking this year at the Gospel of Matthew, is at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, after John the Baptist has been arrested, there is this quote from Isaiah. It says that Jesus went to Galilee to begin His ministry, and then it says, land of Zebulun and Naphtali, those who walked in the darkness have seen a great light. On those who sat in darkness, the light has shined. So, where does Jesus, when He begins His ministry, go? He goes to the place where the darkness is the greatest. He goes to the place where the suffering is the greatest, the brokenness is the greatest. So, what do you think He might be saying to His disciples? Where is it you're going to meet me? Meet me where there's need for light. Meet me where there's need for hope. Meet me where there's brokenness that needs to be healed. So, where are we going to meet Jesus? First, the place that we often most clearly will meet Him is as He shows up meeting us in our brokenness. Day to day, in our emptiness, in our confusion, in our weakness, we're going to run into Him. He's going to reveal Himself to us. We'll see Him. But not only in our own lives as He meets us in our darkness and our brokenness, but you remember the story that Jesus tells in Matthew 25 about the king and the sheep and the goats? That in that story, He's talking about a bunch of people that have completely been oblivious to Him because they haven't visited people who are lonely. They haven't fed the hungry. They haven't clothed the naked. They haven't helped their neighbor. And what Jesus says is, the ones who are going to keep encountering me are the ones who are going to be where I am. And where am I? When you feed the hungry, when you clothe the one without clothes, when you visit the one who is sick. That's where you're going to see me. That's where you're going to encounter me. So as Christians, where do we expect to see Jesus? Of course, we'll see Him in celebrations. We'll see Him in good times. But in many ways, Jesus is saying the place you're going to see me is in day-to-day life. As I show up and I'm faithful to you in day-to-day life. And not just in your strength, but oftentimes it'll be in your weakness that you will see me. You will experience me. So that's the first question, where is Jesus? The second question, I want to look a little bit more at Paul's letter to the Colossians. And that is because of the cross, where are we? And, in some ways this might be sort of a heady thing to be thinking about. But I think what Jesus is trying to do is to get us to start having a different perspective on the way we live. So, and Paul's inviting us to that perspective. And that is, don't focus on the things of this earth. Focus on what's above, because your life is now not focused on earth. Your life is hidden with Christ in God. And some might think, well, that's just some interesting theological talk that Paul came up with. But what we're invited to do is to start seeing ourselves differently. To see our primary, I think oftentimes we think that our primary identity is this earthly life. and that we just get to dabble in spiritual life. But what Christ has made possible through the cross and his resurrection is that really, primarily, we're not physical people who dabble in spiritual life, but we're spiritual people who dabble in physical life. And he invites us to see things in a whole different way. Our lives are not primarily defined by the brokenness of this world. Our lives are not primarily defined by the shame or the things that we've done wrong or the weakness of our lives. But our lives are primarily defined now by being in Christ. So in Christ, we're not primarily sinners, we're primarily saints. We're not primarily broken, we're primarily whole. We're not limited to our own efforts trying to somehow get God's attention, but somehow God has grabbed a hold of us and is working through us to be a blessing to our neighbor. So it's really inviting us to a whole different perspective, to no longer be seeing ourselves as living from earth toward heaven, but in some weird way, because of what Christ has done, we in some way are living from heaven to earth. We're not living toward God to get God's love. We're living from God's love to be a blessing to our neighbor. So as we think about what this message of Easter is, where are we going to meet Jesus? We're going to meet him when we go to where we are, where we're from, to Galilee. We're going to meet him, yes, in our strength, but we're also going to meet him in our weakness, our brokenness. And where is it that we are going to be as our primary address in that whole process? Are we going to be down here while God's watching us from a distance? No, we're going to be living from him, from his love, from his presence. And in that way, it sort of brings us full circle, that if we are in him, then he'll take us to where he's going. And where does he tend to want to go? To Galilee. To be light to people who are in darkness. To be hope to people who are hopeless. So may you experience him meeting you in your Galilees. And may you allow him to reveal himself to you as you live from his presence, from his love, to shine light into the Galilees of other people as well. Amen.